Hello and welcome to our next episode of the Property Success Podcast. And you're going to love the guest that we've got for this week. Why? Because you've no doubt seen him before. He is big in the sense of what he does in the world of property, but also has other business ventures too. And he's a perfect example of someone who has used property as the vehicle to set him up so that he has that business systemized to operate without him and continue to help him make money so he can focus on the things that he's got a passion about, that he's excited about. And this is what I love ultimately about what property can do for people. And not only that, and I'm going to get into that whole story and how I first met him. He's also my business partner too. And do you know what's crazy about this here? I just get back from Costa Rica and the guy's got a full-blown beard. Richard Dickson, how are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. I grew this beard to try and look more like you. That's what it is. Me, you, Sean McIntyre just all look the same now.
I love it. So like any podcast and any person's story, I always like to take it back to the beginning, you know? And we've done many podcasts, right? And we'll do many more going forward, talking about all things. And of course, this is property, but I think that a big goal for many people is to use property as a vehicle that allows them to do other things. So maybe let's have a little chat for those that maybe aren't aware of you. I mean, who isn't? But let's talk about the Richard from the younger days, and then we'll take it from there as we go along.
Yeah, of course. So, similar to you in a sense, South Side, you were Pollock, I was Pollock Shields. Obviously, you were born in the 60s, I was born in the 90s, so slightly different. But, yeah, grew up South Side of Glasgow, typical, council housing estate in Pollock Shields, Maxwell Oval. If you Google that, it will look like Chernobyl. It was an interesting area to grow up. Definitely wouldn't say I had a bad childhood by any means. It wasn't an abundant childhood, but the big benefit I had over my peers in that area was two-parent household. I had both mum and dad. Dad worked, mum was at home with me and my sister Saffron. You'll have many of these stories as well. A lot of the really sad stories that come from that area, you can draw it right back to single parent household, no parents whatsoever, totally destitute parents and stuff. So I really was a big winner having both my parents there, not at all naturally entrepreneurial. I get asked this question all the time, myself and you in terms of education, mentorship, courses, online presence. You're the biggest in Scotland. I'm probably the second biggest, right? Let's be honest, let's face it. So I'm always getting asked questions like, what was your entrepreneurial ventures like when you were younger? They expect you to be like, out washing cars and this and that. I did not care at all. It's very hard to care about money in that sense when you have no understanding of what it's like to actually have any. So you know that money can solve problems because you hear mum and dad arguing about the money, but you're not thinking beyond. You're almost conditioned into a week by week routine. You're not thinking about big money and whatever. Pollock was an interesting place to live though, because where we were in Maxwell Oval, if you bent round the corner around St Andrews Drive and onto Nitsdale Road, where I used to live at Sutherland Avenue, you've literally got some of the biggest, most opulent sandstone villas ever. We would be playing like Curbale, whatever, in the street, and you'd have to stop for Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis. So I'm just like, wow, my dad drives a Peugeot Expert. What's this? Do you know what I mean? Flying past. So yeah, it was an interesting place to grow up. A great youth that I think gave me a wealth of life experience, but definitely by no means was I a natural entrepreneur whatsoever, man. Not at all.
So where did that transition happen then? Because I know for you, mixed martial arts was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I guess that not everyone within that community, because I get to know many, they're driven with that as a thing to go and do and to become, and hopefully, fighting the bigger comps and everything else as well. And I know that you've fought in a lot of competitions before, and I always think that any form of martial arts is always good. But I know that you had a big focus in on that. But where was the transition from all of that into, I want to make more money?
Yeah, I think there is definitely correlation between being a high performer in anything and transitioning to want to be a high performer at something else. So the martial arts thing, for example, I was put into martial arts at 4 years old, not because my dad was training me to be some Spartan, but because I was a wee nutcase. I had so much energy and they were just trying to tire me out basically. So, having martial arts be part of my life the whole way through, and then like training and stuff like that. And it's so funny the disconnection I have between really understanding quite how skint I was as an apprentice and a fighter at the same time, because you don't make money fighting, right? And naturally, for young men, if you were to offer the average 18, 19, 20-year-old young man, you can have £10 million, but nobody's going to know who you are. You can never have social media again. You walk into a room, nobody knows who you are. Or you can have no money, but I'm going to give you a lot of power. You'll be known, understood, listened to, revered. Even for some people, feared is a good thing they want to feel. The power matters a lot more. And I think I was getting enough notoriety from being a fighter. And, you're going on different dates, you've got different relationships and all that kind of stuff, and even your friends. And I kind of had this moment of like almost embarrassment. I just kind of stripped back and looked at my life. By the way, that was totally from me. That wasn't because girl had said to me, I'm not getting in that kind of car. Like my girlfriend at the time, I'm like 20, 21 years old, I'm thinking about business. She would have took a backie in a BMX, right? There was like, there was nothing minus my own opinion of myself. I decided that I wasn't going to fight anymore, which is going to change this year. I'm going to be fighting at the end of summer, albeit not MMA anymore. My hopes is professional caged K1, so it's pro kickboxing, but with MMA gloves, which will be really fun. But at that point, I'm kind of looking at my life. I'm not fighting anymore, which was my whole identity. Like that was all anyone really knew about me. Yes, I was an electrician, but it's not something that's not a personality trait, being an electrician. It's not something people notice about you. My thing was that I could fight. So that was my wee cool angle and my bit of power. And I was kind of looking at a Skoda Fabia at the time. It was £250 car. I bought it out of Breaker's Yard. It had no door cards. Didn't even have the bits of plastic to wind down the windows. You used to have to do it with pliers. The radio had been stolen out it. I bought a radio off eBay, tried to code it, it wouldn't work. I siliconed a Bluetooth speaker to the dashboard that was then plugged into the cigarette lighter. And that's what I used to cut about in, mate. Like just imagine for a second, and me now, knowing the things I've had in my life and all that, imagine using that to like go and pick up your wee girlfriend, not you're like 20, 21 years old. She must have really liked me, right, to be able to deal with that. So I just had this moment of sitting back and being like, what the hell is going on in my life here? Not that I hadn't achieved anything, or I would never swap what I had done. Even now, looking back, I wouldn't swap that for having more business experience or having started my business earlier. It is all a process, but it was stumbling upon Grant Cardone, and I can't tell you how I stumbled upon him. I can't tell you what the first video was. When I think back to my first experiences with Grant Cardone, I remember not knowing who he is and then watching him every single day. And I mean every single day. At work, I would have him on my mobile, listening to the Cardone Zone, Real Estate Made Simple, Young Hustlers with Jared Glant. Didn't matter what it was, I would listen to Cardone live streams every night. Didn't matter, I was just bang on Grant Cardone. And that really started changing how I was thinking. I knew how to work hard. I knew how to dig deep. I knew how to do all of those things that come with sometimes just existing, to be honest. So the ability to dig deep and try hard isn't that impressive, because we're all able to do it. People who work the lowest income, most difficult jobs work hard. It's not a prerequisite for anything in life. So having that really started making me change how I thought. And obviously with Cardone at that point being in that real transitional period between the big salesman online to talking more about his real estate stuff, that kind of opened that door for me, to take an interest in something like that. So I think it was all that period, stopping fighting, stumbling onto Grant on YouTube, and I don't remember really going on a tirade of finding other entrepreneurial YouTubers. It was just kind of stayed on him and just, religiously watched the stuff, listening to, I think I've listened to 10X Rule probably 40, 50 times, It's like just one of those things I always go back to and just keep on. I still watch a lot of Grant's content now. And yeah, it's been, that was that kind of process for me.
Do you know what I love about what you're saying there is that nowadays people consume a lot of content, especially short form. And it doesn't take much for someone just to come out of nowhere and kind of consume you. And if you're paying a lot more attention to whatever that is, you're going to see more of that stuff. More now than back in the day.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, it's great that at least you allowed the right message to consume you, because of course Cardone gets you to think bigger, gets you to, you even get inspired by his own personal upbringing and story from where he came through and everything else. And I know that when I started to listen to Grant, it really changed my whole thought process, listening to how he was pretty much brought up in a scheme and, on hooked on drugs and all of that kind of stuff. So, I resonated a lot. And of course, just the American style, being very brash and talking about all the things you can do and flaunting success. And what's crazy is that I get inspired by people that flaunt success.
Yeah.
But it's mental how many people are like, oh, look, they're just flaunting it and have a different opinion. But I think that if you want more from life, you should be inspired by others. And if you consume their content, it doesn't mean you need to go and listen to every single word as gospel, but you should be inspired by it. So it's great that you said that, because nowadays people are consuming so much crap.
Yeah.
And no wonder, because the way the algorithms work, no wonder that people end up going down a different path that doesn't serve them. It doesn't better their life. They're not getting that personal growth that's going to help them go from the person they are today to where they truly want to. So it's great that you did that. And I guess that off the back of that, that was around about the time where, we brought Cardone to the UK.
Yeah.
And I think for many people, because no one normally comes to Scotland for events, and
I know that after running Financial Freedom Summit last year, nobody wanted to come.
So it's a strange thing, where most of these speakers only go to London. But part of my deal with Cardone, I was like, no, we're going to do a UK tour here and we're bringing you to Glasgow. And I remember when Cardone, I've still got the video, recorded a video that I'm going to be in Glasgow, and the way he was trying to put it, didn't even know what Glasgow was.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
And it was quite embarrassing. We had to ask him to redo the video over and over. It was so funny. And I think we got so many messages. Is this a scam? Is Cardone actually coming to Glasgow? We don't believe he's coming. And that's why we had to get him to actually say the video.
That doesn't surprise me, because obviously with me and you much more so than me, and having taught me a lot of what I know about the events and, live coaching kind of businesses, you see a lot of the big names being licensed in America. So like you see, and even in the UK you see it as well, Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad event, and it's like 50 quid or $50, and people go, and it's like a Rich Dad Poor Dad certified speaker, and it's like a guy who works at the local bloody gym. And then you would think to yourself, oh yeah, did I think I was spending $50 and getting to meet Robert Kiyosaki? That's kind of mental. So I can understand why people would think that, because Grant Cardone coming to Scotland is so obscure. It is so obscure. So you would sit and think, is he actually coming here? I didn't. I just pulled my bank card out and was like, whatever the cheapest ticket is, I'm just going to buy it and go,
Yeah. And what I loved about you, and it's a common theme with yourself and everything that you do, is that I think I came off stage because I had my session at the event, and I was walking down to do a B-roll to get out a little bit and go around into the green room, and then I just saw you with this just stare and this look and this march coming right up to me, as if like you really wanted to just introduce yourself and say hello. And that stood out, and I remember saying hello to you, and we had a brief chat, and it was from that moment that you just popped up a little bit more. And of course you then took that step to get involved in what we were doing in terms of protege and property education. But what was that trigger moment from that event, and what was the idea in your mind about property, based on all your upbringing and based on your challenges, and especially as an electrician at the time with your working with your dad? Like off the back of that, what was it was going through your head that thought, yeah, I can do property, I'm going to get involved in this, and I can make it, something that I actually give it a good go at?
So it's not difficult. You know what it's like being on site. It's not difficult to visually observe me driving in a 2004 Citroen Berlingo to a plot of 4 or 5 new build houses, and then the guy who's doing that development pulls in an RS6. It's very easy for me as a young man to go, I'm in a Berlingo's crap. This guy is doing this, however he's doing it, I don't know, don't quite understand, and honestly I don't care. I just want to be able to try and replicate something like that so I could have an RS6. Or it's like people talk about, oh yeah, you shouldn't be motivated by material things. when you grow up in a scheme, what else you meant to be motivated by? It's not like, silent millionaires have not got a blooming crystal ball. You're motivated by material stuff. That maybe doesn't and you've probably seen that change in me over the last year or so. My motivation for material stuff has drastically dropped. I've sold off £300,000 worth of cars or something, right? Like it's the least materially driven I've been. But back then, I seen that stuff and that just kind of pops in your head about property. Now, obviously, I would also see guys that were running multi-trades companies, like almost like your David Stevens and Sean Britt, but back then, and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting they're doing that. But I already knew I hated being a spark. So I was like, do I really want to sign myself up to build a business around something I hate and whatnot? So being at that event and going to that event, like I went myself, and because you're starting to think differently and you're starting to speak differently, and you like the aspects of your personality are changing, you go through this kind of purgatory period where you're just operating on too high a level that your friends you've had most of your life are starting to not understand you. Doesn't mean they dislike you or whatever, but they're just starting to not understand you. But also, you are nowhere near successful enough to be friends with the type of people you want to be friends with. So you're stuck almost suspended, right? I didn't know, and to be honest, I wouldn't have probably went anyway, but I didn't know about things like BNI and PIN and all these different things. And since I got invited to a BNI once, it's the worst thing I ever went to in my life. It's absolute garbage. If you go to BNI, you're a loser, right? I think it sucks personally. But I was thinking to myself, how do I get around anybody that I could just speak to or just feel understood in a way? And going to the 10X UK tour, and I still keep the workbook. Like, I've still got my 10X UK tour workbook. Like, I keep it. I moved house a couple of months ago, I've got this bag of things, my original protege jotter, my original protege certificate, and the way the protege program has changed since 2019 through to now is like unbelievable. If I thought it blew my mind then, what the protege graduates or attendees get now is like, it's on a totally different level, right? It's just amazing seeing that coaching program develop. And I thought, you look at stuff like the Sunday Times rich list, it's like, just do a tally. Anyone at home, go and do a tally on any rich list, any wealth index, Forbes, Sunday Times. I'm sure there's one for if you're watching abroad in your country, your home country. Do a tally. The top two will always be tech and real estate. It always will be, right? Some countries may have a little bit more tech, and the UK is extremely property dominant. So I thought to myself, not because I was disillusioned at that point when I'm going to be on the Sunday Times rich list, but I thought to myself, okay, I need to get a tiny percentile of that. And I just seen it as a numbers game. It was like a law of averages, I've never been a shy person. I'm not easily embarrassed. So going along to that event, I knew I was going to get someone somehow to notice me. Like, I asked Cardone probably the most ridiculous question at that, and he absolutely slaughtered me, and I had the audacity to disagree with him over the mic. Don't know why I'd done that, but I basically said to him, oh, I like to dress how I dress. This is how I dress all the time, just trackies. What's your thoughts on people who dress? And he's like, no, you should be dressing smart and all that. And I was like, I think you're wrong. Why did I ask the question if I even thought that, right? It's just so stupid. But I seen property as having so many different people, so many different backgrounds, genders, races, that it was the highest percentage probability of me being able to do something and do it reasonably quickly. I would never be able to turn around. You'll have so many people that come on here. I love property. I mean, look at guys like Mark Laurenti and his other like businesses. Mate, I would rather jump off the Erskine Bridge than have another business that like manufactures eco bricks. But he loves it. He's obsessed with like construction and all that stuff, and it gets him going. I was excited at the prospect of having a better life. I can't turn around and go, I love property so much. I find it so interesting, so amazing, so exciting. I find the income opportunities and the doors that can open so exciting. But I wasn't sitting like, oh, property. If Grant Cardone had been a YouTuber not talking about real estate, I've been talking about like fast food chains, like anything, I would be sitting here right now on the Paul McFadden or equivalent fast food chain operator podcast. Did you get my point? It was all about What can I see? A high hit rate, and there's something I can do here. And also, by the way, it's hard to connect with Grant Cardone, 60s, from, you know, the south of America, lives in Miami, billionaire, 21, 22-year-old Scottish guy. So it was easier for me to connect with you at that point. And I didn't know who you were going to the 10X UK tour, with respect. I was going because I was like, oh, Grant Cardone's going to be at this. And then it's you, and it's, you know, Mark Wright, and all these different other people were there. But I went for Grant. But I'm glad I went for Grant, because then, you know, we met each other, and it's been all right so far.
No, what's good about that there as well is even though Cardone here and taking a lot of influence from that and meeting other people and like you've said, I think that's the same for most people that have grew up with a challenging upbringing and not having, and it's a big drive for me. It's always been the first step of changing my whole financial situation, because money is where the most amount of arguments happen in the house when you've not got, and being inspired by other people that have the nicer cars and the bigger homes, and you know, so for me, as you say, that was a big motivator for me. And I think that people need to use that as motivation, because there's many people out there that say you've got to have a passion, you've got to have a drive. If you've got that, you'll never work a day in your life. But for me, I couldn't tell you what my passion or dream was back then. For me, it was, I just need more money. And that's where my focus needs to be.
When pain is bad enough to motivate you towards a result, passion does not matter. Like, I'm putting a big focus on health, fitness, strength, and all that stuff just now, not because I'm passionate about it, but because I looked at myself in the mirror after having not taken care of my body for a year and a half, 2 years. I know you had this exact same thing round about the same age as me. And I was like, oh, wow, I look terrible. I'm not passionate about the gym, right? The same way that if you got told you've got a chronic health condition and one of your habits is making it so much worse, you don't need to be passionate about changing your life. The pain or the fear needs to be so bad that you change it. So I think passion is definitely a bonus, but people who say that, you know, you need to be passionate about what you do and that's what's going to make you successful, I think is a complete fallacy.
Yeah,
personally.
I agree. And you mentioned about the material things, and you've had some amazing cars, and you know, you still have, but you've obviously sold off a few of them, and I get that too, because there's a funny process that you go through from not having money to then having, to then buying all the things and the toys that you want, and then you realise a car's a car. Now that seems a bit alien, right? Because I would never change the drive that I had to want to have the sports cars and, you know, the Bentley, the Lamborghinis, you name it, because you want those things. You should have those things. And once you start making it about the material thing, if it's fuel for you to work hard to create that life, again, use it. But it's funny, isn't it, that once you start getting those things, it kind of wears off real fast.
Like it's ridiculous how fast you get used to cars, especially. Like, it's so ridiculous. The temporary gratification is, like, honestly chronic. It actually gets to a point where it's so fleeting that you almost start to resent the car. I find that's how I got there for a while, because I had, you know, in the last 18 months, AMG GTS, Rolls-Royce Ghost, McLaren 570 Spider, X3M Competition, Range Rover SVR, like all these different cars. And what a hassle, you'll know yourself as well, what a hassle it is having multiple cars. One is always in the garage, or one is needing something done, or there's tyres need done, or the MOT's due, or servicing's due, and like put this one in storage now because it's winter, and then pull it back out and then go and check on it. I felt like I almost needed to hire someone to look after my cars, you know? And I got all the, you know, the excitement of picking up a McLaren from the dealership and, you know, picking up an AMG GT on the day of my 25th birthday, and all these just different things, and driving a Rolls Royce back from London to Glasgow and just feeling how smooth it is on the motorway and all that kind of stuff. And it all felt excellent, but it's like my motivation's so different now. You know, it's so different. It's changed so much, man.
You know, do you know what I love about it? See, because I've seen the Richard Dickson that was an electrician who was still in his MMA to a certain extent, coming to that Cardone event. and seeing the evolution of you over the last 5 or 6 years, it's for me, it's inspiring to see as well, and I love it. I really do, because you see the progress and expansion of a person. And one of the things you touched on there, which is so true to me, you know, at one point, and this is to make it clear for everyone, right? So of course we're going to be talking about property, right? And but even if property is not the goal, property can set you up to do many other things.
It's a vehicle.
And exactly, because it's a phenomenal asset class. And having been in times in my life when I'm so full in my property business, I mean, it kind of scurries you a little bit.
Yeah.
You get scurred by it. And for me, it was a big shake up when I went into Dan Pena, right, and spent time with him to understand that I had to grow out of my business, because you've heard the term working in or working on your business, right? But it doesn't matter how many times someone says that to you, it's kind of hard sometimes to actually take stock, reflect, and comprehend what that actually means when you're in a day-to-day grind of building something. And you know, when you're making a lot of money, and especially when you have which I had, a mindset of not having money prior to that and having scarcity around what if I lose it and everything else, all I thought was, I need to work, I need to work, I need to work.
Yeah.
And it was all that graft to the point that I burnt myself out, making lots of money, scunnered with property as it is in itself. And I'm like, right, I need to reflect here. I need to start building a business that can then buy back my time to focus on the things that I actually enjoy. And that's why I'm very fortunate to have other business interests. That's why, you know, becoming a millionaire, having a portfolio, having made a lot of money in property, as well as having helped many people, it made sense for me to go into the property education side of things, because it just kept on getting asked to help others. Yet nowadays, someone buys a couple of properties, been in the business for 2 minutes, and now they're selling courses. And I'm not going to get on that conversation, because people do what they need to do, and you know, people find out for themselves where the substance is, and if
People
they've got
find
a
out for
depth of
themselves
knowledge.
that running a course creating, coaching, and mentorship business is not easy. It is not easy, because people see it and they see even me or you, we could be part of the problem. And they go, wow, look at these guys. They've got nice cars and all they do is a couple of courses. If you're out there and you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to get some skills and start a course, yeah, cool, good luck to you. Like, I would love to see the failure rate of coaching programs inside of the first year. People think, like, I get these comments all the time, oh, you just sell courses, you sell courses, you just do mentorship. It's like, firstly, you don't know me. Secondly, you're hiding behind a fake account, you little weasel, right? Thirdly, if it's that easy, go and start a coaching business. Yes Academy done $1 million-ish inside of its first year, pretty much organic, right? So stressful, so hard to get it done, but it was an amazing target to hit, and that's what we wanted to do. If you can replicate that, I'll take my hat off to you, because it is almost impossible. It's one of the hardest business models in the world.
Yeah, and this is what I want to tie it into, because I honestly believe you've got to earn your stripes, right?
Yeah,
it's a bit like
of course.
With anything, like if you earn those stripes by going out there and actually building a proper business that's been able to get to a certain level and stuff, then you can, if it's built in a way that you can then transition into help other people, and the business is still growing and everything else, because it's going to tie into my conversation with you as well, because coming off the back of Protege, you've had a lot of success in property, and because of that success in property, and I'm very fortunate myself, because my portfolio covers everything. Like, if I truly wanted just to stop everything and disappear to Costa Rica with my wife and family and never work another day, I know I have tenants paying rent and that money's coming in, and that's great. And that's the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And once you get to that level, you'll find that you might want to get involved in other businesses. You want to get involved in investing in other asset classes, or do something that you can actually enjoy doing, not for the money. But of course, look, no one's going to run a business if it's not profitable, right?
No.
You need to run an enterprise that's making a lot of money. So for me, the impact that we can have to help other people, give them the right knowledge, the right education, right support, and see the results that they have is unbelievable, because I think the goal should be for anyone. Because again, go back to me being scunnered or being involved in property, as soon as I started to transition from working in to working on, and doing the stuff that we teach at Protege nowadays to build a business that serves you, because you don't want to quit a job to create yourself another job. That's the last thing you want to do.
Of course.
You know, the two things that you need to master in any industry is the power of leverage, as in leveraging other people's money and other people's time, because other people's money, you only go so far with your own. Even Elon Musk leverages other people's money, right?
Yeah.
And then when we look at other people's time, that's where in property you've got your power team and others that you can outsource, hire. And then you start to realize, wow, I'm financially free beyond my wildest dreams. My portfolio is only going up in value. More money's coming in as rent increases over time, and you're still actively having a team, build the business. Now you have that mindset of being able to go and get involved in other businesses and other interests and pursue other, goals as such. And you, for what took me over 10 years to even go through that, to be able to transition where the business takes care of itself and allow me to really hone in on other stuff that I enjoy, you've done that in a far shorter period of time, within only a few short years. And because you're not on social media sitting there shouting about property, it doesn't mean you're not doing property. It doesn't mean you don't have things on the side. And we have chats on a regular basis talking about this here and that there. And I get excited about that. And this is what I love, is because what you've made through the first few years of your property journey, being aggressive on that front, which I'd like to talk about, you've set yourself up and got support around where you've got the money coming in to allow you to now focus on the passion, the goal that you're looking to do. So maybe touch on just some of the kind of wins that you got out of, I guess, attending Protege and what that's allowed you to do from there.
Yeah, attending Protege was awesome, and I made a choice at the time. There was still quite often Proteges being held in London, and I don't know if you have any plans on doing that again anytime soon, but me, doesn't really make sense because I'm 4 stops down the motorway from here. But I decided I was going to go and do Protege in London because my attention span is generally terrible. It's got a lot better over the years, but I would go home and jump on my PlayStation and just dump stuff out my head. So went down to London, and Protege at the time was, I think, a 3-day event, right? And it's like a 5-day now, and the vault is like 10 times the size and all that kind of stuff. But I went down there, and you just had like your brain flung about, and I'm just wondering stuff and asking myself all these questions. And it's no wonder that I reattended Protege 5 times after that, right? 5 times. I don't think that's a record, but I think I must be up there, right? Top 5. But with my reattendances, I heard stuff said in different ways, and I picked stuff up in different ways, and there was never not a real good takeaway from reattend that, even though it's the same event. So attend that Protege, I kind of came home and I seen my risk profile in my life as being very low. No dependents, no real massive outgoings, like a small amount of car finance each month and stuff like that. Also, not a huge income coming in, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sack my job. Like, I'm not saying that everyone needs to burn their bridges and all that stuff, and I didn't really burn my bridges because I worked with my dad and stuff like that. So I just decided I'm going to quit my job and just give this 100%. And the worst thing that happens is I fail, and where do I end back? On the tools. It was to me, it's what I would call a free spin. That's how I seen it. It was a free spin. What's the worst that happens? Nothing changes. So I aggressively tackled my property business from the very start, and I wouldn't say I was the best or the smartest at it, but at that time I was putting out more content online than 99.9% of people in the property world are doing today. Now, obviously, with my current big focus in business, all my stuff is online. We put so much content on YouTube, webinars, videos. But back then, I just leaned into going hard online. That allowed me to get my first deal done inside of 12 weeks, leaving Protege. So that was a property in the south side of Glasgow, and it was about as bad a property as you could get. Not in terms of it being like stinking, disgusting, terrible. Like, it was internally, it was bad enough, but it was like unmortgageable, like kind of like the composite concrete construction. It was, in terms of boxes that you didn't want to be ticked on a home report, or notes you didn't want to see in a home report. It had all of them, everything that could possibly wrong with it. But we got it at such a drastic discount. And my first investor was someone who had, you know, a portfolio of over 200 properties, which is not common for a first investor. Loads of times it's people in middle management or in decent sales roles that have 30, 40, 50k saved is going to be your kind of first investor. So to get in with someone who had such a big portfolio, that itself opened a couple of doors for me as well, you know. And from there, that makes it feel real, doesn't it? Because you've invested in your education, and you're ultimately waiting for a payoff. Because same way someone would go and spend years at university, whatever, you're waiting to land a job within your sector, which seems to be very hard for university graduates just now. You know, you go and get a master's in something, next thing you're working in Lidl. It's the most random thing ever. But you're waiting for that payoff, and that feeling I got when that money landed in the bank, I think it was like £6,000 total is what I got from the full thing. Now, I wouldn't do this now, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to do it, but I took like half fee up front, half fee afterwards, because I didn't have that confidence yet to really know my own value. Because I'm toiling with myself. I've never done this before. Like, am I going to be able to make this happen? Like, you're just fighting with yourself constantly, aren't you? So when that money hit the bank, I was like, wait a second, right? That's 6,000, but I'd never. The first time I had over £1,000 in my bank in my life, I think I was 22 years old. And the reason that happened was I'd sold something, and then you know what, like Christmas is a worth key, you get 2 or 3 weeks wages paid the last Friday, and then you're skint 10 days later and like eating pot noodles for like until end of January. I got paid and I had like £1,001 in my bank. And I went and bought a turbo kit for my Honda Civic at the time, right? It cost me like 700 quid and I never fitted it. But I wasn't used to having, like, £6,000 to me was like, whoa, like, slow down, this is mental. Now, obviously, my good friends at American Express needed a little chunk of that because I'd used an Amex card, like a personal Amex card, to get myself all set up in terms of my sites and little bits of ad spend. And by the way, that's a whole other podcast. I spent £2,000 on ads that never actually ran. Prior to Facebook being a really sophisticated system, I spelled my own domain wrong and ran all these ads to a website that didn't even get anything. It was just a nightmare, some of the stuff I'd done. I learned some really important lessons, right? But it paid off like the Amex stuff, and then I'm sitting, I'm like, right, okay, I've got like 2.5, 3 grand sitting here. That's sick. And I know plenty of people, and maybe I've been like this in the past, but they get that 2 or 3 grand and they sit on their backsides for, you know, a month or so, and then they're like, right, okay, better go out and make some money. That just wasn't me. I was like, right, what is next? And, you know, a couple more traded deals after that, and then my good friend ego kicked in, unfortunately. And you'll remember this conversation me and you had, and I was just about to join your platinum community at the time, and I'd made, through my traded deals, 10k in a month for the first time in my life. And the first thing I'd done was I went and bought a Rolex, which I still have today. I've sold all my other Rolexes, all my watches gone, minus that one watch because it means so much to me. I bought in Chisholm Hunter and Silverburn. I was having a Yosushi and I seen it sparkle in the window. And it was only like, you know what it's like. You've got some nice watches now as well. And
by the way, I was never a watch man until I met you.
Oh, really? Class. You weren't a supercar man either. But I seen this watch. I bought it. It was like £5,250, which in terms of some of the other watches I've bought, you might have bought, or just Rolex in general, is a very entry-level watch, but that to me was like insane. Like, I went home and showed it to my mum, and my mum was just like, she thought I'd like flown to Turkey and bought it off some guy on the beach or something, right? It was just, it was mad. But I was going through this period of starting to get a bit of confidence about myself, you know, and I got my A45 AMG, I've done my traded deals, and I'm starting to get a little bit of momentum, and that first assisted sale comes along. And see, once you've done an assisted sale, I imagine it's almost like people who have big buy-to-let portfolios and then they get an SA and they go, wait a minute, what am I? They could have an amazing buy-to-let that's like net positive cash flow, 500 quid a month. There's people out there that do it for 50, 60 quid, nutters, right? But they look and they go, this SA is pulling in, you know, £2,000-3,000, and they're like, what am I doing with the 15 properties? So as soon as I landed that assisted sale, I was like, wait a second, like this is a totally different game, right? And from that, you know, I got it was more money in, which was funded by an investor, and that investor meeting I really nearly messed up really badly by trying to be too funny. You know me, I'm a joker, mate. Like, I'm such a joker. I always try and make people laugh, but I also struggled to understand my audience at that point. I was making so many mistakes, and just like, it's like when you watch someone on ice and they're sliding but they've not quite fallen yet, but you're waiting for it. That was me just finding my way through this, right? But on the outside you'd have seen consummate professional, like totally fine. And I nearly messed up that meeting by like making a joke to get, not like an inappropriate one, but just like a funny joke, and the guy being like, what are you talking about? And you know, you just want the ground to swallow you up. So it was more money going in, and then it was my first time having an investor in terms of putting actual cash into something. So then I had to make sure they were paid off, and then paid myself off. And that project wasn't without its, you know, problems. As it was just about to be listed, someone broke into the house, and the person who broke into the house was the person who used to own it, because they'd went out and got drunk and forgot that they didn't live there, and they've tried their key and then just booted the door in, which I could totally imagine myself doing, right? Like, not because I'm a drunkard, but you would just think, my key's not working, I'll boot my door in, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I'd done that in my old house at Glasgow Harbour, right? Not drunk, totally sober, but you need to get in and get somewhere to sleep. So it wasn't without its problems, but it was like a bigger bit of money in, none of which was my own, and a much bigger bit of money out. So then I'm like, oh, because by the way, I'm saying, yeah, I'm making 10k a month at this point now. Don't confuse that with me having any of that 10k left at the end of the month. I did not have a bean. What I had was loads of Prada trainers, a Rolex, an A45 AMG, bit of a swagger, right? I was using maybe 40% of that money on my business, more ads, more flyers, more bandit boards, all that kind of stuff. Then the rest was just lifestyle money, right? I could go on holidays now. I could get nice dinners. I could buy Gucci. I could buy this and that. Like, it's just so funny how you do it. But this assisted sales selling, then I had like 18 grand in the bank. I remember saying to you and making the choice to come and work closer knit with the platinum community. And for those of you who are watching this and don't know what I'm talking about, I will not have time to explain it, but the proteges who are watching this, and a lot of the community will watch these videos, if you have the chance to get into something like platinum, never mind legacy and all these other things, but that first step up into a mastermind, if you're someone who gets selected for that, or there's an opportunity, or you hear that offer made, you would be very stupid not to get involved with something like that, right? So I'm the youngest person in platinum at the time. I think I've just decided to join platinum. I'm sitting with this money, and I said to you, I was like, yeah, I want to be like a developer slash flipper slash assisted sale type guy. That's what I want to do. Now that I've done that one, it's amazing. And you said to me, excellent, but keep a deal trading aspect to your business. And mentally, I just was like, no. Like, I just thought to myself, nah, probably not as if I knew better or I thought my opinion was worth more, but I just disregarded what you were saying to me, because I'd felt that excitement of having, 5 figures land in my bank for the first time, and I was like, nah, it's all right, I'll just focus on what I want to do. And that was a tough lesson. I still had a couple of deals, traded deals, like going through legals and that, so I'm still getting money in as the months go on, but I got so laser focused on looking for like unicorns basically, that I took a couple of steps back, and I got to a point where I'm sitting, I'm like, right, okay, I've made an error here. And it's hard to swallow your pride sometimes and see you're wrong. And I think, if I remember right, I mentioned to you, oh yeah, I'm gonna, start pushing my deal trading a bit more and all that, as if like I'd came up with that idea, and you were just kind of like, yeah, wow, smart. But you knew straight away, I told you so kind of thing. And from then, it was a good way to learn that lesson without having big money on the table or anything. Learning that lesson early. The same way it was good me when I was doing 10k months, to get most of the extravagant nonsense out the way, as opposed to hitting 100k months and burning all that money. And from there, I really went hard on my deal trading, more portfolios, larger clients in terms of available capital to go and actually acquire. And, you know, I networked hard. You know, I networked really, really hard. And it's a thing I always talk about with, you know, my own students inside of places like the Yes Academy and stuff like that. And I decided to just continue being myself. I tried to reinvent myself when I got my first couple of deals out the way and got that assisted sailing. I was looking back at an old hard drive of mine a couple of weeks ago, and I'd like changed my LinkedIn. Anyone who knows me will laugh at this, right? But I'd changed my LinkedIn to like me in like a white shirt with a tie. And like at the time when I had my nose ring, which I don't wear anymore just because I don't particularly like it that much anymore, I had a nose ring and I took it out and I took this really professional headshot, and I was going to these meetings and trying to be super professional, polished to people, and nobody was wanting to, like, you know, get involved with me at that point. And I think it's because that just wasn't me, you know, it wasn't me. So I think I really fell into my niche of clients, people who maybe they weren't going to do 1 or 2 deals with me, they were going to do 8, 10 deals with me because they really liked me as opposed to the offering. Loads of people can offer similar, better. It's often about them having an affinity or connection with you as an individual. And that there just allowed me to continue snowballing, you know. And as you get more income from your deal trading, you're able to buy into your own things, you're able to invest more in marketing, obviously alongside improving your personal life, your family life, doing more things for people that you care about, you know. And I think now, last year, for example, and we're only a month into the new year just now, but last year, for example, I done the least amount of active property stuff I've ever had to, but it wasn't like a humongous hit in the income. And it just goes to prove efficiency as time goes on. Like if you looked at how hard I was working at 23, 24 and how much I made from that in comparison to how hard I do not have to work now and the money you make now, you'd be like, it has no correlation. It doesn't make sense, because as you just get better, you get more polished, you have more resources. I've got my own staff now that, you know, you can task on different things as and when you need to. And I don't even have to do any marketing anymore because I built up enough of a following that often someone who grew up in that block of flats with me in Pollokshields last year gets in contact with me, works at Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, Math his name is, right? And he was just stayed 1 floor down and round the corner from me. He messaged me last year and he's like, "Oh, Richard, my pal's dad's thinking about selling his house in Cardonald. It's beside your old college." I went to Cardonald College. Like, he just knew, and me and Math hadn't spoke for years. I bumped into him in the hospital once and that was it. And I was like, all right, okay, I'll have a look at it. I'll see. Like, I got to a point I didn't even want to do my own viewings. I was just leaning into like the Yes Academy and different people like that. Like, when clients of mine wanted deals, I was happy to just co-source and split money for efficiency. And with respect to the people that are pushing their sourcing businesses, I just used that money as fun money. It was like, because I was focusing so much in so many different businesses, I didn't need the money. So I was happy to just co-source and get it done. And that deal from Math, we got a 20% below market value discount. It was 950 quid a month was the rental valuation we got. We got the house for £86,000, one of my clients. And I thought, and I went, wait a second, we're quite close to BE systems. This is one thing that I've always been slow to the mark on, and I get annoyed at myself, but I don't allow it to overcome me or overbear me, because I'll get dragged away with shiny object syndrome. I was just too early to really catch the SA boom. I've not done anywhere near as much SA as I should have, right? And by the time SA was really going hard and I was seeing the way you guys were doing it and like the SA programs that were coming out, I was almost laser focused on building a community with the Yes Academy and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, we're really close to BE systems and close to the college and the hospital. Cardonald must be quite a good area for SAs. And I'm thinking about it, I said to my client, I was like, I'm going to go and have a look at this and see what was a £950 rental buy-to-let, which, by the way, was all money out in 2.5 years. It was a good deal. Became a £3,400 a month SA in 20 minutes of research. And I'm thinking, right, okay, And that was based on 75% occupancy. And some people go, oh, we base it on 60. The reason I based it on 75 was because I reached out to my network, and out of the 10 SAs that were in that postcode that I could get information on from friends, the occupancy was 95%. One of them had been 100% occupied for 3 years. And I was like, so what I'm saying is the $3,500, it could be the $4,500, you know? And just goes to show, I had to market in no way for that. I gave Ma 500 quid that he was delighted with, right? I made some money on the deal, and you know, the property is an amazing opportunity. I had ones at like random places, shots beside the prison. You don't exactly think people want to live there, but the rental yield was nuts, touching 20%. These all just come to me now because I put so much time into building my brand, building my social media. People didn't want to do that, but I was willing to pay that pound of flesh Monday, Tuesday, all day, every day, recording videos, editing videos, uploading posts, scheduling. When I talk about this to people that, you know, get coached from me on online stuff, digital marketing, I always talk about, hey, with the way I do things now, you can save 30 hours a week. The reality is they can't. They were never using the 30 hours for that anyway. The last time they posted was November 2022. So when I go on to XYZ Property Ventures and you're talking about how hard you're pushing, you look closed. I don't even think you're open for business, you know? So I think that really, as much as it was so hard doing all that stuff, editing on iMovie, the most jakiest editor ever, right? Like doing all that stuff really paid dividends over time and still does today.
Yeah, you did the right thing. I mean, there's no right or wrong thing when it comes to property, in the sense of if you're taking action and you allow enough time to go by, you'll get the results. But of course, there's smarter ways to do things. And I think for me, it's a common thing that I see with many, similar to yourself, like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And that's perfectly fine. And what I love about what you have done, you have really taken on board, is, and again, there's no right or wrong. There's people out there that have big investor databases. I've been there myself before.
Yeah.
And you're constantly having to, you know, find properties, and you're selling to the wrong type of investor. And I always say, and this is something I teach at Protege, is if you're sourcing deals, you're not sourcing deals for investors. You're sourcing for preferred investors, and there's a big difference between the both of them. Joint venture with investors, partner with investors, do deals with investors, but preferred investors, as a quick synopsis, is someone who's time poor, cash rich. They don't have the time to go out and source their own deals. They'll comfortably pay a sourcer $5,000 up front, and you can make money in the back end. You can make money in the, you know, through the whole process, how you structure it. So you're making over $10,000 a deal comfortably. And you really honed in on that. And when we have regular chats, what I love about it is because you've got high net worth individuals that you just said yourself there, that they're not coming for one deal here or one deal there. They're not even out there looking for anyone else to source the deals, because they found your uniqueness and how you approach yourself and how you put yourself out there, how you dress, the way that you interact and engage, and you found your tribe as such, the people who resonate, and it happens to be the right types of people.
For sure.
And off the back of that, you're not going finding someone a one-time deal, selling to an investor where you're only making a few £1,000s. You're making upwards of 5 into the 10,000+, sourcing deals, leveraging the team that you've built. And because you've got an easier life, you don't get consumed by property like I did back in the day, and I had to go have the tough lesson myself, so I was no longer skirned with property, so I could get out the business and still make money, working the right type of clients. So because you've been able to do that, it set you up, and you have deals come in. And the best part you just said there, off the back of the effort that you put in, and this is why people cannot underestimate this. If you put time and energy into building relationships, putting yourself out in social, a lot of people get caught up about, oh, I need to have done this deal, I need to have no, just share your journey, make people aware what you're up to and what you're doing. And if you're viewing properties, do a quick video here, post something there, just be seen. And the more that you did that and being aggressive in social, you know, you've now transitioned into a place where opportunities just fall in your lap.
Not just property opportunities, by the way, you must get this as well. I get opportunities spanning any industry just because I've positioned myself correctly online.
Absolutely. And I guess through all of that process, and you know, and seeing the skill sets that you had, the ambition that you had, and you know, and you know, it's quite a funny story how we started talking business together, which was funny, maybe for a conversation for another day. But
Aye.
off the back of that, you know, you and I started to discuss how can we do things, you know, and
Yeah.
then that then created the Young Entrepreneurs, you know, Society in terms of what we're doing with the Yes Academy, and it's just grown from strength to strength, and what you're doing there to help many young entrepreneurs, and not just young entrepreneurs, anybody who wants to grow in the marketplace and really start to leverage their time and make more money doing things the right way.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe have a little chat around that evolution and where you see, you know, Richard Dickson through 2024 and beyond.
So the launching of the Yes Academy was like such a so different to anything like I've ever done before, and I was really for a while not, I wouldn't say against it. I was against it for me. I was like, oh, I couldn't do something like that, like an educational platform or whatever. Like I'm not ready. I'm not qualified. It's just you're just convincing yourself not to do it. But the more and more I documented my own journey online, the more and more it was just requested. And then, like you're saying, you see people popping up and they're, you know, starting these workshops and mentorship programs, and I'm looking and thinking, wow, you're just going to lead people down the wrong way, basically. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, fine, let's do it. And originally, I built the idea. I was floating the idea in my head, and the thing that really gave me the kick up the backside to go and get it formulated more professionally was my chance at going on The Apprentice. You'll remember this. I got invited down to, you know, audition for The Apprentice, and I'd done all the mock episodes, and I was accepted into The Apprentice, and then there was a issue that meant I wasn't able to go on, and I got made a reserve, and that in itself was a whole other podcast, right? But that was my business idea for Lord Sugar. Was originally, before me and you spoke about it, I was like, I'm going to have this network for entrepreneurs. I think business education in schools ultimately is terrible. If you're a business teacher out there, hopefully you can prove me wrong, but business education in schools is deplorable, right? And I remember being on and talking to one of Lord Sugar's well-known advisors from the television, and being in the Gherkin in London, you know, the
Yeah.
building, the Gherkin, and meeting with one of the advisors there, and I'm suited up and all that, sitting chatting away, and I'd taken, you know, this idea for this young people's network and all that. I can't remember what it was called, but it wasn't called the Young Entrepreneur Society at that point. And then as a backup, they always say bring like a backup business idea. And I just printed off all the stuff about my property business and my websites, my personal brand website, and the different stuff we'd done and our own projects and our own properties and stuff. And showed them this idea, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they're looking through this thing and they're like, yeah, it's a little bit, it is what it is. Like, it's interesting enough. What else have you got? And I gave him the documents for my property business, and straight away he was like, looking at me, and he's like, why is this not what you're going to Lord Sugar with? And I says, because Lord Sugar's already a property billionaire, and I don't believe that I can get him opportunities in enough quantity or exciting enough to justify me and him being partners in a property business. I said, I just brought this along because it's my main business, and this is what I want to do. This is a legacy thing for Lord Sugar. If he puts his name behind this and it can impact people in schools and all that stuff, like once he's retired or ultimately passes and stuff, this will live forever and it'll impact so many more people than, you know, him helping my property business. And I managed to change the guy's mind, and he was like, I actually agree with you. Well done. I agree with you. And that gave me a bit of confidence. So when that opportunity was kind of, you know, dissipated and stuff, I thought to myself, well, what can I do with that? And so I started it as like a little networking thing. It's like during COVID, and there's a hilarious photo comparison that I have, and it's me in one of the meeting rooms of the Premier Inn beside Wheatley House at George Square on the corner, and the meeting room was tiny. We had 30 seats, and at this point I've maybe got 12,000 followers on Instagram, and I'm thinking 30 seats, I can sell that out. as long as I can sell out these 30 seats, 20 quid a go or something it was for this networking night. And I reached out to Stephen Ronaldo at the time, and it's mad his journey from then to what's happening now with Primal and stuff, and hoping to get him on my podcast soon. And Angela McKillop and Stephen McKillop at the time, who are now moving out to Dubai and stuff like that. And I managed to get them as guest speakers. I'm sitting thinking to myself, if I can just sell this out, didn't sell it out. Right, and there's a photo of me, and I've got a Pokemon shirt on. What was I doing? Right, I've got a Pokemon shirt, and I'm standing at the front of the room, and it's a wonky projector on the pulled down fabric, and Stephen's there, and Angela's there, and there's like 18 people there. Do you know who was there? Gary.
Really?
Yeah, my
Wow.
video boy Gary. Gary was one of the first attendees at that, and so Gary's there, and all these other people, and just different entrepreneurs. And by the way, some of them have went and done some awesome things. Some of them are still with us now. Yes Academy growth getters and stuff like that. It's just funny how it goes. And I use that as a comparison beside the photo of us on the stage at the Financial Freedom Summit. Hundreds of people, and it was just like, I love the fact I've done that one, and now we've ended up here. Now COVID kind of kiboshed that a little bit, and that's where the idea for an online academy came from. And I came to you with this idea. And I was like, Paul, want to do this. We need to have like a launch event and funnel some people in. We can maybe do some property-based stuff as well. We'll do this and that. Like, I just had this mad idea, expecting you to be like, okay, go away and get this and get that and do this and do that. I wanted a checklist essentially from you to go away and do. And you took your phone out and you were like, okay. And I'm talking, and you do this sometimes because you're searching as you're listening. You went, right, okay. There's a free Saturday and Sunday in 3 weeks. Do something with it. And I was like, huh? You were like, build an event, launch something, do something. So I'm like, oh, right, geez, oh, right, fine. So put together this event for these people, dragged it, just made it happen, got all these young people in this room, gave them amazing education over those 2 days, built the original list for launching the Yes Academy, and then just got to work like a madman recording different courses and reaching out to people in my network to record courses for us and getting you to record courses and building this massive entrepreneurship library that we're consistently still adding to today. This is summer of 2022. And then, launching the Yes Academy, having the website crash within 10 minutes of launching it. We had to re-upgrade the hosting 5 times consecutively in the same day because of the amount of traffic we got on the website. It was just madness, and just sit and look at this thing. I'm like, people actually want this. People, like, it was the validation I got from it was amazing. And then, growing the Yes Academy, doing the Financial Freedom Summit, and now obviously having awards at the Yes Academy, countless people winning our 10K Moneymaker Award, getting to the point where they're making 10K per month. A bunch of people now in our Yes Academy 100K club. And then as of 2 weeks ago, the first 2 entries to the Yes Academy Elite Earners Club, over £1 million generated since joining the Yes Academy. That's madness. That's crazy. That to me was just, designing those trophies, I was just like, it was so hard to even think that idea, not even 2 summers ago, 18, 19, 20 months ago, whatever it was, has done that for some people. It was just incredible. So it's been such an amazing journey, and I think this year I'm going to put a lot more effort into really getting the Yes Academy out there. And most of our members are here in Scotland, and I'd be biased and say I want Scotland to benefit from what I do the most because I love my country, right? But I just want to get the Yes Academy out everywhere. And that's before we even speak about what we're doing with Growth Getters and then the partnership opportunities in Growth Getters. It's just, I think in the next, year or two, for me, I can't even, it's hard to even think about. Normally I'm someone who has like, oh, this is what I'll be doing in a year, and dead regimented. But I'm almost in this period now where I've reset everything, and I've reset mentally, and I'm just sitting and I'm like, there's just so much opportunity, so much stuff that I can do, so many people I can benefit, including myself, and not even people just as in business owners, as in people in my family and all that kind of stuff, and places I want to go, and potentially places I want to live as well, spending time outside of Scotland and try a life somewhere else that you never know. So I think this next year, 2 years, it's hard to explain what I think we're capable of we've averaged hiring a person a week since the start of the year. You know, we're just hiring, building this team, expanding to serve more clients, to put more content out on YouTube and be more consistent with everything that we do. Just continue building that brand and try and reach more people with a message that is entrepreneurship, you know?
Yeah. It's incredibly inspiring. It really is, because someone like myself, you know, I see a lot of similarities, you know, from my own personal journey and you. Fortunately, and I never thought I'd ever say this about you, but you have matured
Ah,
rapidly in a good way, still keeping
yes.
the same personality that
Yeah.
everybody loves and enjoys, the quirkiness and so forth of who Richard Dickson is. But I feel like as a businessman, someone who is starting to become a lot more switched on about the responsibilities of a team, responsibilities of overheads, but the responsibilities of fulfillment and delivering on what you say you're going to do. It's just been amazing to see how much you take that on board and you take it with this whole serious approach, because you know that by getting it right, it's going to change so many people's lives.
Yeah.
And I've seen that firsthand, and this is why I love getting involved, especially with the whole Growth Getters Mastermind, because the people that are coming through there, it's so exciting to see the caliber of people and the drive, because I think that we need more of this stuff here. We really do, you know, especially Scotland. But I know this is bigger than even the UK and beyond in terms of making an impact in people's lives. And, you know, you still being a young entrepreneur yourself. I mean, I feel like a young entrepreneur even though I'm
Yeah.
38, but I don't think you ever, you know, you're only old as the saying says as you feel. But I think that having that growth mentality, that drive, and being around the right people, it's just amazing the magic that happens. And you know, you've been a big player in changing many people's lives.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
been
just
mad.
amazing to see what the next few years will be, or the next decade. It's hard to even comprehend. It really
Yeah,
is, you
yeah, it's
know.
mad.
So this is great. As always, we do tons of these podcasts. This won't be the last, of course not. We'll do a lot more. It's always good fun, you know, to have that chat. But Richard, thank you for coming on and sharing your
Thank
whole
you
story
for
here.
having me. It's been fun the last few years, so let's see where it goes in the future.
Brilliant, love it. And as always, I'll link off to Richard's socials, and of course, you can check out more about the Yes Academy and everything else that Richard's doing to assist and help people, that's going to help in your property business as well as others in other industries too. So again, hope you guys are inspired by this. If you've got any comments, pop them inside below, and of course, I'll be in there, and I'm sure Richard's going to keep an eye on that to respond to those as well. So all the best, and bye for now.